Once upon a time, in the quaint village of Afia, there lived a beautiful and kind lady named Salima. Her beauty and grace captivated the hearts of numerous men who sought her hand in marriage. However, Salima firmly declined their advances. Her sole reason for rejecting these suitors was a deep-rooted fear of making a regrettable mistake. She was determined not to marry the wrong man who might mistreat her. With this in mind, she turned away a great number of men who didn't meet the standards she had set for a worthy partner. As she approached the age of 31, without a husband or child, her mother grew impatient and began urging her to settle down with any of the suitors. She simply ignored her mother's advice, explaining that she had not yet found the man she wanted to spend her life with. Meanwhile, her friends and peers in the village were already married with children, but Salima was still single. This made the villagers make fun of her each time she passed by the village square. Despite the constant gossip and taunts, Salima never allowed the opinions of others to affect her, and she never failed to carry herself with grace. One day, as Salima was on her way to the market, she was beaten by a snake on her left foot. She fell to the ground and started screaming for help, but no one seemed to hear her cries. In a stroke of luck, a strikingly handsome man named Musa happened to pass by that very road. He saw Salima lying on the ground. He then ran immediately to help her. When he got there, he asked Salima what had happened, and she told him she had been beaten by a snake. Musa took pity on Salima, carried her immediately, and took her to the village herbalist. The village herbalist treated Salima, but she fell asleep during the treatment. When she woke up, she found Musa dutifully watching over her. Shortly after she regained her strength, she felt a deep gratitude toward Musa for saving her life. And in that very moment, their hearts connected. Love blossomed between Salima and Musa almost instantaneously. Their love story unfolded rapidly, and Musa couldn't contain his affection for Salima. He knew she was the one he wanted to spend his life with. He gathered the courage to ask for Salima's hand in marriage, a proposal she gladly accepted. Their wedding day was a joyous occasion, and Salima couldn't have been happier to become Musa's wife. As newlyweds, they began their life together in Musa's home, and their days were filled with love and harmony. However, this idyllic scene was disrupted when Musa's uninvited mother, Fatima, paid them an unexpected visit. Fatima was known for her troublesome and arrogant lifestyle, and everyone tried their best to stay away from her trouble because she was known for her powers and love for black magic. She possessed strange magical powers, which she claimed to have received from the river goddess of Afia village. Her presence struck fear into the hearts of the villagers. When Salima first encountered her mother-in-law, she graciously welcomed her and served her a meal. Little did she know that her mother-in-law pretended to be happy. After the meal, when her son Musa returned, his mother began to complain about Salima and the food she had served. She insisted that the food was tasteless, meatless, and even accused Salima of adding a lot of water. However, Musa, aware of his mother's nature, didn't take her complaints seriously. Fatima gradually made Salima's life in her matrimonial home unbearable, constantly finding faults and making her existence difficult. Despite this, Salima, a kind-hearted woman, tried her best to please her mother-in-law. She went as far as washing her clothes, preparing a variety of meals daily, and ensuring the house was spotless, all to no avail. Fatima was never satisfied. Salima, in her own home, began to feel like a maid with no peace. Every morning, as soon as Musa left, Fatima would send her on endless errands. Salima endured this, desperately trying to maintain peace. However, one day Salima opened up to her husband and shared the sufferings his mother had put her through. Musa was very upset and unhappy with the way his mother was treating his wife. He decided to have a conversation with his mother, asking her to stop causing stress to Salima and to let her be. This made Fatima very furious, and she blamed Salima for reporting her to her son. That very night, Fatima cast a spell on Musa while he slept. The spell left him unresponsive to his mother's evil deeds. No matter how terribly she treated his wife, he would never react or speak out against it. When Fatima realized that she had control over her son, she turned Salima into a full-time housemaid, and Salima kept on suffering, while her husband kept quiet over all the mistreatments from his mother. However, Salima never knew her husband was under a spell. She continued enduring the torments from her mother-in-law, and this continued for months. One day, Salima discovered that she was pregnant with her first child. She joyfully shared the news with Musa but begged him not to tell his mother. Salima's health started to deteriorate as the weeks went by, prompting her to make the difficult decision to leave her matrimonial home. She told Musa that she would travel to her family's house and stay there until she gave birth. Little did they know that Fatima was secretly eavesdropping on their conversation. That's when she came to realize that her daughter-in-law was pregnant. Fatima began to hatch a sinister plan to prevent her from leaving. She sneaked into Salima's room and added an unknown substance to her food. After eating the food, Salima began to feel dizzy. Unable to leave her bed, she slept for hours, and by the time she woke up it was already late. She quickly realized that something had been added to her food. She was very upset and decided to confront her mother-in-law. Fatima couldn't believe that Salima could have the audacity to confront her. In response, she swore to make Salima pay. Fatima used her strange powers once again to cast a second spell on her son. This time around, she touched a spell for her son to do whatsoever she told him to do. She started first by telling her son to stop taking care of his wife, and also to stop giving her money for food. Her goal was to see Salima starve to death. Salima had been struggling to provide for herself and her unborn child independently. She was able to survive by doing some manual job for people where they pay her some substantial amount of money, which she used to buy food for herself, and also to buy some baby stuff for her unborn child. It actually surprised Fatima how Salima was able to survive even without the help of her husband. Fatima thought maybe the spell she casted on her son was not enough to make Salima suffer. Therefore she decided to cast a new spell on her pregnancy. The spell was to stop Salima's pregnancy from reaching full time. After a series of events, it was almost time for Salima to deliver. She was super excited that her baby could arrive soon. She got everything ready. 10 and 11 months passed, and there were no sign of labor. Salima began to weep, asking God to help her deliver. But the more she waited, the more everything seems like in vain. Her mother-in-law began to mock her and call her names, telling her that this is what you get for challenging me. Her husband, who was under the influence of his mother's charm, didn't even care about his wife. Salima was left to carry this challenge alone. Determined to take matters into her own hands, Fatima arranged for her son to marry another woman, and forced Salima out of her matrimonial home, even though she was pregnant. When Salima returned home, she shared the heartbreaking events with her mother, who was deeply moved by her daughter's suffering. Salima's mother welcomed her with open arms and took care of her. Salima kept on struggling with her pregnancy, and things took a turn for the worse when she fell seriously sick at the 18th month. Her mother grew increasingly worried about her daughter and her pregnancy. They decided to seek help from a herbalist, who examined Salima and revealed that her pregnancy was under a spell. Unless the spell was removed, she might never give birth and could even risk her life. This revelation terrified Salima's mother, and she asked the herbalist for a solution. The herbalist advised taking Salima to the Afai River, as the spell on her was connected to the Alfi goddess, and only a ritual at the Afai River could potentially undo the curse. When Salima regained consciousness, her mother took her to the Afai River, where she underwent the necessary ritual. Salima's health improved over the course of 3 days, and on the 4th day, she went into labor. After 6 hours of labor, she gave birth to a baby boy. Meanwhile, at Salima's matrimonial home, the woman Fatima had brought for her son to marry turned out to be the daughter of a powerful chief priest with remarkable magical abilities. When Fatima attempted to mistreat her, just as she had done to Salima, the new daughter-in-law refused to yield and stood her ground against Fatima. Unbeknownst to Fatima, the new daughter-in-law possessed great powers that she had inherited from her father. Frustrated by her inability to control her new daughter-in-law, Fatima tried to cast a different spell on her, but it proved ineffective. In a sinister turn, Fatima decided to poison her food one night while she was fast asleep. However, she was not asleep. She saw everything that Fatima did on that particular night. After Fatima left, she took the poisoned pot of soup and swapped it with Fatima's pot of soup. The next morning, Fatima woke up happily, hoping to hear the sad news. Soon after, she went straight to her room and started eating from the pot of soup, not knowing that the food she ate from was the one she had added poison to. After eating, she lied down in her room and couldn't wake up again. She died. Following Fatima's death, the spell she had casted on her son cleared away from his eyes, and he began searching for his wife. Musa's new wife told him how her mother lied. against Salima, and made her believe Salima was a witch, which made her decide to marry him. She went ahead to ask for Musa's forgiveness, and then she left his home and never to come back again. Musa went to look for Salima at her family's place. When he got there, he discovered that Salima had already given birth. He was overjoyed and happy. He knelt down and asked Salima to forgive him, explaining that he didn't do it intentionally. He told her that his mother had casted a spell on him. Salima, being such a kind woman, forgave him and went back with their son to her matrimonial home. When Salima got home, she discovered that her mother-in-law had died. She was filled with pain and wept bitterly. But finally Salima and Musa with their son lived as one big happy family.